Welcome back, Wellness Warriors. I'm Caitlin Thompson. This is the Enthusiasm Explorer channel. And I recently did a freediving course up in Ahmed in the northern parts of Bali. And it was an amazing experience. And I decided I wanted to make a video sharing my experience with you guys because I found that actually freediving is not so much about diving as it is about mindfulness. And I got some really unexpected gifts and insights through doing the freediving course that I found to be really profound and healing. And so I wanted to share these insights with you. So I drove up to Ahmed, which is about 2.5 hours from where I live in Bali, which is Ubud. And it's such a beautiful place up there. They have amazing view of Mount Agung, which is the largest active volcano in Bali, and super epic scuba and snorkeling with beautiful coral reefs, fishes, and some of the top freedivers in the world like to hang out in Ahmed. So I went to a place called Apniesta and signed up for the freediving course, level 1. Now, I just recently got into scuba diving like 7 months ago. And actually, before that, I was kind of terrified of the ocean. So it's been an accelerated process of really rehabilitating my relationship with the ocean and water. So I had gotten really into scuba diving and I thought, okay, I'm ready to try some free diving. So if you aren't familiar with free diving already, it's basically a style of diving where you do not use any sort of scuba equipment or breathing apparatuses, and all the underwater time you are holding your breath, the entirety of it, and you have to resurface when you are ready to breathe again. Now, some of the records that have been set by freedivers is really amazing. I think as far as breath hold time, the top record for a man is 11 minutes and 35 seconds, and for a woman, 9 minutes and 2 seconds. With these men and women diving as deep as 140, 150 meters down into the ocean, which is absolutely incredible when you think about it, considering that I found it challenging to dive 12 meters down in one breath without freaking out and hold my breath for a minute. So it really kind of paints a picture on how amazing these freedivers are. Now, people like to freedive for different reasons. There's people that like to spearfish when they freedive. Others like to do it competitively. For some, it's really a meditation experience. Others like to go snorkeling sort of and enjoy wildlife while they're freediving. It can be really great to get up close to animals, especially if having a scuba tank may inhibit your ability to swim close to certain creatures. And there's also some underwater sports, evidently, that people use freediving techniques for, like underwater football and rugby, which I had never heard of until recently. So it's pretty fascinating as a concept and as a sport. So when I did the freediving course, one thing I was kind of surprised to discover was how much fear and panic I was consistently experiencing while under the water holding my breath. And I'm going to kind of loop back in and describe more of this and why this was meaningful, because you might think, well, yeah, no shit, of course that's how everyone would feel. But I did a lot of breathing exercises beforehand to practice holding my breath for a prolonged amount of time with full lungs. And what I found was I can actually hold my breath pretty well. And I was able to hold my breath for up to 2.5 minutes without any prior experience. So I was pretty happy about that. And they have you wear little oxygen monitors on your fingers while you're doing this on land breath exercise so that you can actually witness the measurement of the oxygen saturation in your blood, and you can see with your own eyes that you actually do have oxygen available, so that when the sensation that you're running out of oxygen is happening, you can see objectively that that's actually not true, and then train yourself to be able to relax through that uncomfortability and exceed past the point where you feel the urge to breathe and continue holding your breath. So that's kind of what the preparation was on land for the experience. So, laying there doing the breath work, I could hold my breath pretty well. Cool. When you get in the water, it was a completely different experience. And when I was doing the free diving with the instructor, they have like a little flotation buoy so that, there's no actual emergency if you, get tired and need to take a break or whatnot. And then they lower this rope down to whatever measured amount that you are aiming to dive to. And there's a white plate at the bottom so that you can see your target and kind of swim all the way down to it and then turn around, back up, and try these different methods of diving with these different exercises and styles, etc. So when I actually got in the water, I found that I was immediately panicking because it's all cool when you're on land and you're holding your breath, because you know that whenever you want, you can just take that breath. It's so easy to just end the discomfort, to end the holding of your breath at any point. When you're underwater, you can't do that. And the first time I did the free diving underwater, my immediate response was like my lizard brain, my amygdala, my limbic system completely panicked. And I was actually kind of surprised to see how absolutely panicked I was when I had just held my breath for way longer on land. So 30 seconds underwater felt like an eternity compared to when I was doing the breathing on land. And the first time I did the free dive, I went under, and I'm not sure that I made it all the way down to the target. I think I just was like, fuck, I need to breathe. I'm going to die. What am I doing? I'm underwater. I'm going to suffocate. Ah! And I just shot back to the surface as fast as I could, because there was this very real stress response that happened that made me feel utterly panicked and terrified. And it was quite interesting to see how my mind had constructed this story about how I was going to suffocate after holding my breath for 30 seconds, when I knew that for a fact that wasn't true, because I had just seen myself hold my breath for 2.5 minutes. And honestly, the entire freediving course, it was not so much about diving at all for me. It was about me working through that response of panic and contraction and emergency sort of sensation that I needed to be terrified of and run away from. So in essence, I had to overcome the deep patterning and old neural grooves that had been developed from my early childhood and just years of being in a chronic stress response. And it was really a mindfulness practice more than anything. And for me, the progress that I saw in very consciously choosing to override and reprogram that patterning around feeling trapped when I can't take the breath, and just in general in life, it was very, very challenging. And it made me see that this patterning exists in so many other areas of my life apart from breathing underwater. And I think that was the biggest thing that the freediving course really illuminated for me, was that I now had another tool and another activity that could help me continue to work past and move through old patterning in my nervous system that ultimately centers around being in a chronic state of fear, anxiety, and panic. So over time, I got more and more comfortable with the free diving, and I got to the point where I would even kind of hang out a little bit longer under the water. And once I started to kind of get the hang over the mind over matter aspect, I realized that when I was down there touching the plates and at the, the deepest part of my dive, if I smiled and if I just told myself that everything was okay, and in some way I had to give myself permission to die. I had to train my brain that it was okay to not breathe, and therefore it was okay to cease being alive. And that's ultimately what it took to convince my nervous system that it was okay to not breathe for that minute underwater. And towards the end, I was actually able to find these like really blissful, relaxed states. And when I finally accessed those places underwater, I could feel that I didn't actually need oxygen. It was an illusion that my mind had tricked me into believing. And I saw how much our fear and our nervous system can completely dictate our impression of reality. And the reality was that I had plenty of oxygen. I could have continued to hold my breath for another, minute and a half and whatnot. And when the panic set in, the story would be completely thwarted, and I would believe that I was running out of oxygen. So when I was able to overcome that and find mindfulness in consciously choosing to change my states and my surrendering to not taking the breath, then suddenly I dropped into a whole nother area of cultivating peace within myself. So it was a really fascinating experience. I highly recommend it to people that are ready to take that next dive into exploring how their consciousness can completely change their physiology and also help them overcome their fears and anxiety, such as doing things like freediving. So it was a really beautiful experience. I'm not sure that I'll continue freediving. I haven't quite decided because in all honesty, it was uncomfortable for me. It was like stressful, and it was scary. And I don't know that I'm so passionate about it that I'll want to continue, or that I will want to keep pushing myself to explore that territory. But at the very least, I'm incredibly grateful that I had the experience, because I learned a lot about myself and about what my sort of deep knee-jerk reaction in my nervous system is when I feel trapped, like in a situation where I can't breathe because I'm 12 meters underwater. So that's what I mostly wanted to share with my experience, was that, freediving is about more than diving, and it can bring so many amazing gifts to your life if you have an open mind and you see how a mindfulness approach to freediving is actually what freediving offers the most. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you want to check out the place that I went freediving in Bali, in Ahmed, it is amazing, and the staff there is really awesome, and they're very professional, and they made me feel really safe and taken care of. And there's a link in the description below if you want to check out their freediving school. It's called Apniesta. I think I'm saying it right. And yeah, I highly encourage anyone that's into freediving to visit Ahmed, because it's a beautiful little town in Bali. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that. If you guys dug this sort of video, then be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss a beat, because I have all sorts of amazing videos that I release every week on a variety of topics that all really just help support you in finding mental health and happiness so that you can live the best version of your life possible. I love you guys. Comment below if you enjoyed this or have something to contribute, and I will catch you next time. Smile on, my warriors. Mwah.